Stephen Hilda's funeral took place almost a month after his death. At the time, police had no leads on who might have killed him.
I was a pallbearer at Steve's funeral because we were teammates and we were friends, and it was an obvious choice for me to be a pallbearer because we were obviously there when he died, and when he died doing something he loved.
The church, well, it was packed as you can imagine it, standing, and people outside. I led the service, and I spoke about him as I had known him, about the boy and the man for whom I had great affection.
We are here to celebrate Steve's life, not to dwell. You know, we can think of him as a really sort of heavy drinking, loud singing, joyful young animal. Actually, inside it, there was this guy who was sensitive, loving, thoughtful, in celebrating a life which touched all of ours and enriched us.
He was funny, wicked sense of humour, intelligent, bright, energetic. He could also be absolutely infuriating, like most 20-year-old lads. He could be stubborn, he could be thoughtless, but he could also be very caring.
He set his heart on an army career early on.
Stephen joined the Army Cadets around 13, 14, and very quickly took to it. When it came to deciding about his A-levels, wanted to go to the Army's Sixth Form College at Welbeck to do his A-levels there.
The Army later sponsored Stephen's civil engineering studies at Bristol University.
We went along to Freshers' Week and he signed up to the skydiving club. He phoned me at home the day he did his first jump, when he'd literally just landed, and he was absolutely high on it. He said, "This is just amazing." And he was hooked.
But after a year at university, he failed his exams, and in autumn 2002 he transferred to the Army Defence College at Shrivenham in Wiltshire. There he joined the drama group and auditioned for a new production, Prime Directive, and met Jason Saunders and Ruth Woodhouse.
I remember seeing this guy who had such a strong presence, and he just seemed so sort of bright and sparkly. And then next thing I know, there he is, turns up at the first rehearsal with a packet of Pringles and a can of Foster's, and that was it from then onwards.
The play's three main characters, Tom, Dick and Harry, were played by Jason, Ruth and Stephen, seen here on the right.
1 second. I'm defending my masculinity. The next, I'm being told I'm mentally challenged and no woman can fancy me. How the hell does that happen?
Tom, Dick and Harry were supposed to be very, very good friends all the way from school. And we ended up echoing that relationship in real life.
We went to see Prime Directive. We were pleasantly surprised, and they entered it for the Naval Drama Competition. And Steve got Best Newcomer, I think was the title, and they went down to Portsmouth for presentations for that.
Despite his acting talent, Stephen's real passion was for skydiving. He set up a club with fellow students David Mason and Adrian Blair.
I spent a lot of time with Steve when we were jumping together, and we'd hang out occasionally, sort of in large groups in the evening in the bar, just have a few drinks together, but not really sort of one-on-one close friends.
It was 4 months after they started skydiving together that Stephen fell to his death. As the murder investigation dragged on, David and Adrian found themselves under increasing scrutiny.
David Mason and Adrian Blair spent many hours talking to us about their relationship with Stephen, and I think it would be fair to say that at times that relationship was strained and it wasn't a close one.
I didn't feel that the police were looking at me as a suspect at all. They were getting quite thorough and quite firm with some of the questions at some point, but I hadn't even imagined that they were considering me as a suspect.
In October 2003, detectives wanted to interview David and Adrian again. and they asked the college to arrange for them to travel the 170 miles to Scunthorpe police station.
I certainly didn't have any premonition when I set Adrian and David off in the car. I didn't feel particularly good, as one never does when you're sending someone to a police station knowing that they were about to be questioned. I just knew it must be pretty serious if the police wanted to interview them at the police station rather than at Shrivenham on the campus.
But just how serious was to come as a shock to them.
These are the two men we understand are under arrest tonight on suspicion of murdering Stephen Hilder.
Their names had been leaked to the local TV station, and by lunchtime they were headline news.
That information did not come from the police, and indeed it was released to the media before either of these two individuals were arrested.
Central Television allegedly had got the information from someone at Shrivenham, but we were unable to prove who the person was who released it.
The car they were travelling in had a faulty radio, so they knew nothing about their imminent arrest.
We got to the police station and just checked in at the front desk, said we were here to help out with the Hilder inquiry, and they were taken off to a back room. They just said Dave Mason and Adrian Blair were arresting you for the murder of Stephen Hilder. I couldn't speak for like 4 or 5 minutes. I was just in a daze. I had no idea what was going on.
I did think maybe it could have been them. I didn't know them that well. I didn't know what their relationship was like with Steve, so obviously going through my head and all the different possibilities, yeah, that was a possibility.
But what did the police base their suspicions on? First, they'd learned the man had interfered with Stephen's parachute some weeks before his death.
We did discover that a prank had been played on Stephen's parachute. It had been tampered with whilst at Shrivenham.
David Mason said that Stephen had the habit of leaving his equipment, parachuting equipment, lying around, and he had interfered with the parachute and opened it and pulled the pin out.
Stephen immediately spotted what had been done to his parachute, and it meant that he had to repack it. But he didn't know who had done it, or why.
David Mason said we were trying to teach him a lesson so that he wouldn't be careless and put himself in a position where, you know, people could interfere with his parachute.
The men's personal computer records also attracted police interest. They found that Adrian had joined a skydiving website discussion on dreams, just months before Stephen's death.
I said that I'd had a dream that was actually a scene from a movie where someone's parachutes don't work and you dive down and grab them and pull your own parachute and save them. Dave was trying to say that I was trying to engineer it so I could relive that dream and that I'd cut Steve's cords.
Police also found drafts of Stephen's obituary, which the men had been asked to write shortly after his death. Officers considered the language used insulting.
Neither Dave or myself had done anything like that before, and we both were doing engineering-focused degrees and really didn't know where to start. We were just trying to brainstorm, trying to make it comical. Actually, on one attempt, we just did a word each in sequence, and it turned out not making much sense. In the end, we just went for something that said like some facts about his life, and that's all we sent off to the Skydiving magazine.